Hey, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. All right, today's the 21st. Yesterday was the 20th. Yesterday was the birthday of someone you've heard of before. Michael Brown. Do you remember that name? I know it's not something we're all excited to talk about, but we have to now because Congresswoman Cori Bush, one of the squad, has come out and has a new bill, and she's named it after him. Is it a bill that's supposed to increase the penalties for strong arm robbing a convenience store or bull rushing a cop or trying to take a cop's gun? No, it's not about that at all. I'll let her tell you, and then we're going to have a chat about this.
Michael Brown should have turned 28 years old. The last birthday he celebrated and will ever get to celebrate was his 18th. Just 81 days after his 18th birthday.
How old are we? Michael Brown and the whole Ferguson riots, that was 10 years ago? Yeah, just about it was. Wow. Man, it feels like that was maybe 5 years ago or something. But everyone remembers this story, right? Do you remember the Michael Brown story? Is the guy in Ferguson and he robbed the store, and so the cops that was in the area saw that he matched the description of the guy that robbed the store. So he rolled down his window and said, "Hey, come here," and the guy wouldn't. So he pulled his car in front of him, and so the guy punched him through the window, tried to grab his gun, and then when the cop got out of the car, he bull rushed him, so the cop shot him. The whole mythology around it was hands up, don't shoot, and it was such a big deal at the time that LeBron came out, and I think it was the playoffs or something, and he's wearing hands up, don't shoot on his shirt during warm-ups when they're just doing the shoot around. There was a whole set of riots in Ferguson that happened around this, and so now we're honoring him by naming a bill after him. Yeah, that's what's going on. Anyway, I'll let her continue. Hang on.
A Ferguson police officer killed him.
A Ferguson police officer justifiably killed him in self-defense. Just make it a little more clear.
In a just world, Mike Brown would be with his loved ones right now.
No, that's not what a jury found. Jury found it was a justified killing. You're lying. Or maybe you know more than the jury did. Maybe
celebrating another year, dreaming of his future as he blows out the candles on his birthday cake.
You know, he would still be here too if he didn't attack a cop. He'd still be here too if he didn't strong arm rob an immigrant store owner. He would still be here if he didn't initiate the use of violence against a police officer.
But instead, we are only left with the memories of who he was. Michael Brown's life was taken. It was taken from his mom, his dad, his friends, his siblings, his classmates, and from every person who knew and loved him.
It's awful. The guy had such a horrible home situation, but no, it wasn't taken from his mom. In fact, he wasn't even in the custody of his mom and dad when this happened. I believe he was living with his grandma and his aunt or something like that, because then his mom showed up after the fact and they got in a fight because they were selling Michael Brown shirts. The grandma and aunt were, and it was a whole thing. But no, you didn't break up a wonderful, loving family with this. This was a family in turmoil, and a kid that came from chaos that didn't learn any better that you're not supposed to attack cops.
They were all left to live through the trauma police violence leaves in its wake. They were forced to go to school, to go to work, go get groceries, and live their lives after knowing someone they loved was killed. And they were forced to deal with the mental health effects of it on their own. Police killings of unarmed Black people are responsible for more than 50 million additional days of poor mental health days per year.
Hang on a second. Where did that stat come from? Have you ever even heard? I'm just rewinding. Have you ever even heard that stat before? It causes 50 million days of additional bad mental health a year. Who's measuring that?
A Ferguson police officer killed him. In a just world, Mike Brown would be with his loved ones right now.
No. Go to the days.
Go get groceries.
No, here it is.
Killings of unarmed Black people are responsible for more than 50 million additional days of poor mental health days per year.
Well, then stop reporting on it.
It's devastating our communities, and it must be addressed. That's why, in Mike Brown's honor, alongside Mike's mother, Leslie McSpadden, I am reintroducing the Helping Families Heal Act, also known as the Mike Brown Bill. This legislation will provide crucial mental health support for victims, families, and communities harmed by police violence. It would fund these resources and bolster counseling in our schools.
What does that have to do with Michael Brown?
It's been nearly 10 years since the Ferguson uprising. 10 years
Riots.
since our movement for justice birthed an affirmative vision of community safety that focuses on saving lives instead of destroying them.
Yeah, I think the air quote Ferguson uprising was destroying businesses and lives. That wasn't very positive. That wasn't it's not affirming when you throw a brick through the front window of Champs and go get some Air Force Ones. That is not affirming to your community. That is you exploiting the suffering of your neighbors to get some free shoes. It's disgusting. It's not something to be celebrated. But listen to the flowing verbiage about this.
Earth an affirmative vision of community safety.
Safety. Safety. Yes, the riots that y'all caused. Super concerned about safety, those rioters. That was the mostly peaceful protest. That's where the guys in CNN were standing in front of the burning buildings going, well, yeah, other than all this destruction and burning buildings and dead bodies and people going to the hospital, overwhelmingly peaceful protest.
That's why, in addition to helping families heal, we're working to pass My People's Response Act, which would advance an evidence-based public health approach to safety and so many other life-saving policies.
No, maybe you need to come up with a program to teach people how to pay for their stuff at the gas station. Or maybe you need to come up with a program that if a cop asks you some questions, you don't punch him through the window. Can we have a lesson on that? Can we have a class on that? Can we have maybe some pop quizzes? Maybe my HR department can make me take 9 tests on how to not punch a cop after you commit a crime. No, that's not in this bill. This is about, spending on mental health. Because that's what Michael Brown needed. That's what would have prevented this.
Almost a decade has passed since we lost Mike Brown, but we're still on the front lines of the movement to save Black lives. And that's where we will remain until no more lives are taken by police violence and our children can celebrate each and every one of their birthdays.
All right, here's the ugly thing. There would never be a time when there's 0 deaths at the hands of police. That's one of the ugly things about law enforcement. Whenever you have to enforce the law, some people are not going to comply. Some people are going to play stupid games and win stupid prizes. Some people are going to get in car chases and die. Some people are going to get in a shootout with the cops. Sometimes the cops are going to use force that's necessary, and then medical accidents happen. There's no such thing. So you can just have grievance and come up with all these programs and declare this country as unfit and racist until what? People stop dying at the hands of cops? Well, that sounds like forever. This sounds like there's no solution to your problem. Because I first saw this, she had a tweet and people were retweeting it and commenting on it. And the tweet was yesterday at lunchtime. It said, Michael Brown should be turning 28 today, but his life was taken by a Ferguson police officer. In Mike's honor and alongside his mother, Leslie McSpadden, I'm reintroducing the Helping Families Heal Act, also known as the Mike Brown Bill. Well, I just played you her comments that were in the video accompanying the tweet. And look, the video, it's eye-rolling stuff. They have a picture of Michael Brown at his graduation. So he's wearing the cap and gown, as if, the best description of his life is he's an austere scholar. But, he's gone. So in order to keep this whole thing going, keep this narrative going, let's keep naming bills after him. This was a good situation for the left. They got a lot of people riled up. They got a lot of people excited. They got a lot of people divided. They got a lot of people skeptical of what you and I are saying based solely on the color of our skin. And they got a lot of political activists out of it. This was a good thing for them. Mike Brown dying like this and creating this controversy, they took great advantage of that. But look, Mike Brown, maybe he should be turning 28 today. But in his honor, shouldn't we be, maybe teaching kids to not do the things that he did? Because he committed strong arm robbery. He didn't comply with the cop's orders. He reached for a cop's gun. He charged the cop. And then and only then did the cop in self-defense put him down. But even if he had complied, don't you think there's probably a pretty good chance he would be celebrating his birthday from a prison cell or something comparable? I doubt he would be at the International Space Station doing a second moonwalk or spacewalk. But Miss Parker actually asked, so what does the bill even do?
Hi, Miss Parker.
It allocates money for mental health. Kind of vague, isn't it? For after school programs, I suppose, for mental health counselors, for mental health counselors at the federal level to be sent to these events, I suppose. None of which would have saved Michael Brown's life. It's not like, he would have been fine if he just had some more after school counselors after he had already graduated high school and strong arm robbed a convenience store and attacked a cop. Not these things don't overlap. The Venn diagram on what the solutions are with what the problem is, that there's no overlap at all there. And look, I know what you're thinking. I know because I'm thinking it too. And really, 80% of the country, whenever they hear a story like this, thinks the same thing. Maybe he should have just complied. Maybe we shouldn't honor criminals that lost their lives in the course of committing a violent crime, even if this is a good bill. Isn't there someone else you can name this after? So let me see if we have this right. She's celebrating a criminal who found out the hard way it's a bad idea to reach for a cop's gun after you just robbed a store. Well, the whole Michael Brown saga is one lie stacked on top of another, because the slogan that came out of this was hands up, don't shoot. That didn't happen. The ugly part is there were something to the order 14, 15 witnesses that at the scene told the cops taking notes at the crime scene that they heard him say hands up, don't shoot. They saw him on his knees. None of them were willing to say that in court. Most of them didn't even get called up in court because most of them didn't even witness it. They were just saying what they thought they needed to say in order for the white cop to get justice over the lie that they were told. And then it just metastasized on itself. And they look, I know you're thinking of all kinds of other contexts, especially with what's been happening lately in the news. Like, let me get this straight. Harrison Butker is evil for telling women that your family should be your first priority. Your children should be your first priority. He's evil. Michael Brown, hero. Is that, do we have that right? Because, yeah, I'm sure he was on his way to becoming an astronaut. But I look back at so many of these and ask, how is this even a racial issue? Same thing with George Floyd. How is this even a racial issue? Trayvon Martin, how is that a racial issue? Eric Gardner, Freddie Gray. No one brought up any ethnic slurs at any point in any of these incidences, including this one. Did anyone use an ethnic slur? Did the store owner that got robbed use an ethnic slur? Did the cop, Jason, whatever his name was, did he use an ethnic slur? Did the 911 dispatcher, did the police dispatch, did anyone at any point show any racial reference or racial animus at all? No, just because the guy that got shot is black and the guy that shot him is white. This is all we need. We can make racial hay out of this. Because the only reason he's celebrated, the only reason you still know about this story, and the only reason they blew it up to the point of riots is because he was a useful tool in driving us apart. We now know that because Robert Fortson, the guy that was shot, the airman, the guy that's in the Air Force that was shot by the cop in Florida, was it this month? It was just a couple weeks ago. They're not all upset about that because everyone's not divided on that. Anyone who sees that, or most people, 90% of people who see that, be like, yeah, the cop's in the wrong. He was murdered. That guy should go to jail, and Robert Fortson should be a hero. Well, Robert Fortson should have this bill named after him, not Michael Brown. Robert Fortson wasn't a criminal. Robert Fortson didn't rob anybody. He didn't charge a cop. He didn't go for a cop's gun. He actually served his country in the Air Force. His death is actually an injustice we would all agree on. But it's not about agreeing on injustices. It's not about even finding justice. It's about stoking animus for your political opponents. And I mean, what does the bill do? I mean, that was the question Ms. Parker asked. I don't know, mental health. It's not to teach kids to not assault a cop. It's not to teach kids to not rob a store. Michael Brown's story should be an example of what not to do. Don't be like Mike. Don't honor this guy. And if you have a political apparatchik that is saying, hey, Michael Brown is something to be celebrated, you need to be very skeptical of that person, because he's not just some choir boy who got shot by a cop, just some racist, bloodthirsty, murderous cop who, even though Michael Brown was on his knees and had his hands up, he was just executed like a dog. Why? Because white people are evil and America's evil, and you got to vote Democrat and we'll save you from that. How about the Keep Your Hands to Yourself Act? That would have been a better name for it, too. 800-288-WBAP. 800-288-9227. This is The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.